there's magic coming. Oh, there's magic coming. Oh, there's magic coming. Where you gonna be tonight? Oh, oh, there's magic coming. Oh, there's magic coming. There's magic coming. Get ready for your life.
Hello and welcome to SassafrasCast. How are we feeling, everybody? I'm here with the Everyday Witch Tarot for our witchy weather report and a cup of hot sencha, which is a fancy pants type of Japanese green tea. And my hydration goal and vocal care goal is to finish this sencha by the end of the broadcast. So before we get started, let's all take a hydration checkpoint together. Love me some sencha. Highly recommend. Okay, let's get this party started. Our topic of the day is closure. And you know what? This might be a longer episode. I was inspired by my trauma buddies. This is something I talk about with my therapist, which is that I have trauma buddies now, and it's really great. And basically what I mean is I have some friends. All of us are working on healing. All of us are working on showing up for ourselves better and recovering from our trauma. And so we're all on an app called Boxer, and we all share with each other about what's going on and like what we're working on, like with our feelings and everything. And this week, with more than one of my trauma buddies, I have been talking about the topic of closure. So I decided that was going to be the topic of today's episode. We're talking about closure, and I have a lot of thoughts about closure. So I'm going to share a lot of ideas. That's the crux of this episode, is to give you a bunch of healthy ways to find closure. Healthy ways that will actually help you heal rather than reopening the wound because you get enmeshed again. Because it's very easy to tell ourselves, oh, I'm going to give myself closure, and then actually the thing we do gets us pulled back in. So I am going to work on how to avoid that and find healthy ways, both magical and mundane, to give us closure. But first, let me introduce the show, because I never did that. Hello and welcome to SassafrasCast, a podcast full of witchy insights to help you lead your sassiest life. I am Rorie Kelly, a tarot reader, singer-songwriter, and all-around personal growth nerd from Long Island, New York. In just a moment, we will begin the witchy weather report. But first, a shout out to my patrons. If you didn't know, you can support this podcast at patreon.com/Sassafras Tarot for $1 a month or more. I record these episodes live, and my patrons get a private YouTube link before each one so that they can tune in for the live recording, hang out in the chat, ask questions, and get them answered in real time. They also get access to my Discord server where we talk about all things witchy and wonderful, and a shout out in each episode. Here we go. Thank you to Amanda Little, Melissa Marie, Rachel Miller, Grayson, Millie Orozco, Ruby, Rebecca Jones, Brittany Campbell, Ginger Dawn Studios, and Kevin P. Murphy. I am so grateful that you are in my world. I thank you for being humans who interact with me around this and for supporting this work that I'm doing. All right, we're going to get started with the witchy weather report. As I record this, we are just coming out of the microwave. Mercury has been in the microwave for about 3 weeks. And you know what? I'm actually not sure if it still is in. Let's see. I'm going to go to a website I check way too frequently, is mercuryretrograde.com, and we're going to see where Mercury's at. I'm recording this on May 13th, 2013. Okay, Mercury is still in the microwave until tomorrow, May 14th. And then it turns direct. So we may have a little extra weirdness as we turn around, as we get ourselves back turned around again, which is relevant to our topic of closure, because that's what we do when we're trying to give ourselves closure. We are turning around. We are steering the ship in a new direction so that we can go in a direction that is now more appropriate for our health and happiness and overall sanity and joy, right? Okay, Mercury too is turning around. So if you've had a rough go of it with this Gatorade, don't worry, it's almost over. we are coming up on, but we're not there yet. The next Wheel of the Year holiday will be the summer solstice, if you were listening kind of as this podcast comes out, which will be late June. That is going to be exciting and about new beginnings. There will probably be a new podcast between now and then, and we'll talk more about that. I'm going to pull a card for us to give us some loving advice for the coming weeks. And my intention when I pull this card is that wherever and whenever you are listening, whether you're listening live because you're a patron, thank you, hi, I love you, whether you're listening right as this podcast comes out because you do that as soon as it comes out, again, thank you, hi, I love you, or whether you've just discovered me and you're going back and it's like years in the future and you're going back to old episodes, my intention when I pull this card is that wherever and whenever it finds you, it have some meaning for you right now. And also, if you're doing that, hi, how are you? I love you. Welcome. How is the future? Don't tell me I'm afraid. I'm reading today with the Everyday Witch Tarot, which is, as many of you know, one of my real go-to tarot decks. And especially because it's gentle. It's the kind of deck that like lovingly sits you down with a cup of tea and tells you the truth instead of like whacking you with the truth of a frying pan. Which, you know, like depending on different tarot decks, if you're a reader, if you know, that can be a real thing. The Everyday Witch Tarot is, for me, a very comforting place when I'm going through something. And since we're talking about closure, we are talking about going through things. Okay, here is our card of the month. We have the Nine of Swords. What an appropriate card for our episode about closure. The Nine of Swords is a card of nightmares. It is a card of the past coming into the present and the future, whether in your sleep, in dreams, or during the day, in daydreams, and we might call them like day nightmares, daymares, you know what I mean? When those thoughts about either what if or remember when or oh my god, nobody likes me, insert limiting belief here, when those thoughts come up and dominate our life. And they may do so symbolically by showing us a situation that kind of like emphasizes those frightening ideas for us, or they may do so literally. You know, we might literally get the thought of like, what if this happens? And the Nine of Swords is a reminder to be kind to yourself and to separate feelings from facts. Brittany's tuned in. Hi, Brittany. And Brittany says, Nine of Swords seems appropriate. Yeah, big mood, big mood. Especially as we reach the tail end of this Gatorade and we're talking about closure. The Nine of Swords reminds us that everything we think is a thought, and we're allowed to have our thoughts. We don't have to censor or judge them, but that doesn't mean we have to label them as truth. Right? We can separate the fact from the fiction. We can identify, I'm having this thought, I'm having this feeling, it's giving me a lot of feelings, I'm scared, and we can show up lovingly for that feeling and that part of ourselves without accepting that this is the truth. Right? We can acknowledge that sometimes bad things have happened to us in the past and probably will again in the future, but that doesn't mean the future is all bad, and that probably good things will also happen to us in the future, just as good things have happened to us in the past. We can allow ourselves to take a step back and identify that the big scary what ifs, the big scary remember whens, the big scary false beliefs about ourselves are just that. They don't have to be facts. We can allow ourselves room to say, that might not be true, and step back and suggest to ourselves something else that might also be true that's a lot more friendly to us. We can allow ourselves to have this balanced view. Notice how I'm not inviting you to argue with the negative thoughts. You know, I don't actually think that's helpful to like shout down and be like, no, whoa, 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 because that kind of talking to our concept of closure, that gets us enmeshed again. You know, that just gets us pulled into the argument. And when we're pulled into an argument about something, usually the question I ask is, are you arguing with the other person or are you arguing with yourself? Like, is it actually yourself you need to prove the thing to? So I'm just asking you to be gentle with yourself. We don't have to start an argument with ourselves. We don't have to get mad at ourselves. We can just be like, you know what? That might not be true. And here's something else that feels a lot better that might be true, and look for evidence that the better thing might be true. Give our brain that to chew on. Allow ourselves to be open to the possibility that something better is available to us than our fears. That is my advice for you in the coming weeks. I hope you will follow it because it's crappy to live a life full of fear. I can tell you, I have done it, no fun. Do not recommend, 0 out of 5 stars. All right, I am going to hydration checkpoint. I've got a hot cup of tea, and my goal is to finish this tea by the end of the broadcast, as you have already heard. So I am going to be sipping on my tea sporadically and inviting you to also do a hydration thing, or maybe like a nice deep breath, whatever you need most in the moment as I do that. Tea time. I am a singer as well as a reader and a podcaster, and I find that it's talking, not singing, that tends to make my voice tired and rough and ragged. Probably because I know how to sing and support myself, and we all learn to talk when we're tiny and, maybe don't learn those good habits, Anyway, I'm trying to get better and better at hydrating myself during things where I talk a lot so I can take better care of me. Let's talk about our topic of the day, which is closure. If you're a patron, if you're tuned in right now, please feel free to chime in with your thoughts and opinions and feelings and ideas throughout this episode. I always invite you to do that. I especially want your point of view for this episode because it's such a complicated topic, and because even as I have been fleshing out my notes on this episode, which are lengthy, I'm sorry, it's going to be a long one, but it's intended to give us a real toolbox. It's intended to give us a toolbox for what to do that is healthy and helpful for us when we need closure, so that we don't fall back on old habits that may bring us back around to needing closure again, that may actually be an open-ure, a reopen-ure, which is a real word that I didn't just make up. So patrons, if you've got thoughts and feelings, let's talk about them, let's air them out, let's have a discussion today. All right, closure. Do you have something in your life you could use, or someone that you could use a little closure from? I can definitely think of a few myself. One of the most popular things people ask me to talk about in a tarot reading, especially at tarot parties and events, because when I share about my readings online, I'm clear about what kind of reader I am. I'm clear about the fact that I really want to focus on your growth and your empowerment, and that I want to help you heal and move forward and live your best life. And that's the focus of most of my readings. So that innately kind of weeds some people out and brings a certain type of person to me that is ready for the kind of help that I like to offer with tarot, But especially at tarot parties where, I just get whoever, which is good. It's special and exciting, and it helps me grow my craft. One of the most popular things people ask me to talk about is a past relationship. Are they thinking of me? Will they call me? Will we get back together? I often gently remind them at this point that the answers to these questions depend on two people's free will, and that they themselves have agency to pick up the phone and send a text, or make a call if what they want is a conversation. And sometimes at this point, what they say is, I know, I think what I really want is closure. And I'm thrilled when that's their answer, because then we can have a conversation about how to begin healing instead of ruminating on their ex. And I want to share that you can need closure from a lot of things that are not a romantic relationship. You can need closure from a friendship that didn't end well. You can need closure from a family member that treated you poorly. You can need closure from a traumatic event, whether or not other people were involved. You can need closure from an old version of you, from something you did that you regret, that you want to draw a line in the sand and move forward from in a healthier way. You can need closure from a relationship that is ongoing, where again, you perhaps wish to draw a line in the sand and say, yes, I want to be in a relationship with this person. No, I don't want to be in a relationship with this person like that. I have done that with relationships in one of two ways. Openly, where I've said to the person, we have a new relationship now. I don't want the old relationship because it wasn't healthy for us. And as we move forward, it's the new relationship. If I start to see the old relationship, I am going to draw a boundary right then and there. I have also done that with myself when the other person wasn't ready to hear it. And I'm thinking about people who are in your life that are maybe family or longtime friends that you really are not ready to end your relationship with and go no contact with. But instead, you draw a line with yourself and you say, okay, but I'm creating a new version of this relationship where I have very good boundaries and I take care of myself because I recognize that the other person may not emotionally be able to meet me there. So I will create the new relationship for myself by deciding very firmly what I will do, what I won't do, and how I will respond and how I won't respond, and how much of myself I make available to that relationship. And you can still need closure from the old relationship to help you move forward into the new one at that time. A million ways we need closure in this life. We could need closure from a toxic job, my goodness. Anyone else still have bad dreams about being in old jobs that were bad for them? Like, just like being in a high school dream? Oh gosh. All right, I'm going to look at some of these patrons' comments, and then we're going to get to the nitty-gritty about how to get our closure. Okay. Bernice says, tea time, I should get some tea. Yes, you should. I have many thoughts about this in general. Be right back, but this time with tea. Good morning, Judith. Judith has popped in to say good morning. Good morning. How are you? Thank you for saying hi. If you're tuned in, please feel free to continue lurking, or please feel free to say hi. I know I've got some viewers, which is really good. I sent some reminders today. Okay, so when we talk about closure, we actually want different things when we say we want closure. Sometimes what we want is a better and different resolution than what has actually already happened. We want things to change. Sometimes we don't actually want closure. Sometimes what we actually want is the situation to resume, but it's less bad this time, right? And sometimes that can be realistic and sometimes it's not realistic. It depends on the other parties involved and the situation. Often, unfortunately, when we're at the point of needing closure, often it's not realistic. We're there because we need that closure because we couldn't get our needs met, you know? And so we have to overcome that feeling that it's not how we wish it would be. Sometimes we want the other person or people involved to understand how we felt or to apologize. And that's a tough one because we cannot force that understanding on them. And there's nothing we can do to make them get it. And there's nothing we can do to make them treat us better because that is in their control, not in our control. And it's not helpful to hang our closure on their control. Let's give ourselves closure instead, right? Sometimes people want an opportunity to express the things they wish they'd said or done at the time, but didn't, or to just have it out. Like, say the things that they need to say, you know, whether it's to the person or whether it's to nobody, you know, but they need to get those things out. And sometimes people just want to feel better. They just want to feel better and stop thinking about this. I think that's like the most common thread in closure. It's just, I don't want this weighing on me anymore. I want to feel better. So at its core, the thing that I think is a common thread is what we want is to move forward and we want to feel okay and we want to be healthier than we were in the past. What we really want when we want closure is healing and recovery. Hello, Chaka. Hello, Angela. How are you? Yes, we are recording this episode just before Mother's Day, which I know is a tough day for many people. And the share in the comments here is Mother's Day is going to be a tough one after cutting ties with someone toxic, with toxic family members. If you're in that situation, I just want to say I'm sending love to you during this and any other holiday where family typically gathers. I know that's hard, and I know that if you cut ties, you did that, and it was a hard process, and you did it for your own healing, and you probably got a lot of pushback about it, and I just want to say I'm proud of you for drawing a boundary for your own healing. Brittany says, I'm right with you on Tough Mother's Day. Lots of love and healing vibes for you. The beginning of no contact with toxic family is so hard. I like how you frame that the beginning is hard. And that doesn't mean it's not worth it in the long term if making that choice allows you to live a healthier life. We don't always have control over whether people will be toxic to us, but we do have control over whether we make ourselves available for that. Had some crazy work anxiety dreams where I'm working at an amalgam of all my old jobs. Yes, I have had that too. Chuck has heard me answering calls in my sleep. That's so funny. I used to work in a call center myself, and ironically, I don't have anxiety dreams about that, although it was a fairly high pressure environment. But for other things in my life were such that I don't associate that time with a lot of anxiety. That's so funny. I believe it. All right, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about how we can and can't get closure. Let's talk about what no one wants to hear, including me. I also don't want to hear this, but it's true. We can't get closure from another person. We can't. We have to find it and create it for ourselves. Let's also talk about 2 or 3 ways to not get closure. 1, another conversation. That is not a good way to get closure. A heart to heart, right? That's the vision. We'll have a heart to heart. We'll really share everything that I need to share. Both of us will come away feeling unburdened. That's a beautiful idea. But if you were really able to have that heart to heart with that person, if you were really able to have that in a healthy way that left you both feeling better, you wouldn't need closure from them. You'd be able to continue to have a healthy relationship if you could have that healthy heart to heart. And chances are you might have already tried this and it probably hasn't gone well or made things worse. And that's why we need closure now. If this person was capable of hearing you out and giving you what you needed, you wouldn't be in need of closure. They'd already have done it. That's a good way to not get closure. How to not get closure number 2, seeking information about someone from your past and what they're up to, whether it's like through a tarot reading. I've often had people say, what are they doing now? Are they seeing anyone? And I remind them both that I'm not a mind reader and also that if I was, that would be creepy and unethical. Social media stalking, asking a mutual friend, whatever. Like, spying on somebody's life that you no longer have contact with does not give you closure. It gives you more to chew on. It's the opposite of closure, especially because since you're not speaking with them directly, you're just getting a small glimpse. There is endless opportunity to interpret and misinterpret every little nugget of their life that you're able to glean from doing this. So instead of getting closure, now we're ruminating. Now we're obsessing. This is the opposite of the direction we want to go in. And we all know it and we've all done it. And I'm giving us a pass, tabula rasa. You know, I'm giving us an opportunity to do better for ourselves, not for anyone else but us. We deserve better. How to not get closure number 3, pretending we feel fine when we actually don't. In other words, dissociating or compartmentalizing. And shout out to my trauma buddies because we have all been talking about this, about feeling our feelings instead of dissociating from them and how it's friggin' hard. And apparently you have to keep doing it. You can't just do it once. You keep having more feelings. Oh God, so stressful. But we're not going to get closure unless we feel the feelings, right? If we dissociate from them, if we bury ourselves in work or other activities, that's a good way to make ourselves exhausted. And it's a good way to lodge those feelings firmly in our subconscious. We're not getting rid of them. We're just pushing them down. So then when we are tired, when we are stressed, when we're at our worst, which we all are at our worst sometimes, right? Then those feelings get to show up and take the driver's seat at those times when we would probably rather they not be in control. And that's how we give ourselves baggage. We give ourselves baggage by not dealing with our feelings. So let's make a pact. Let's show up lovingly for our feelings to the best of our ability and in a gentle way. Okay. Brittany says, it's also really big and important that you can't get closure or healing from only cognitive work, because the body remembers and needs to work through it as well. Thank you for saying this. I really agree. And actually, I'm going to make my first recommendation in this podcast, and I'm going to actually write this down for the show notes later, which is a podcast I have been listening to and healing with and enjoying, and the podcast is called The Healing Feeling Shit Show. By the way, we will be cursing in this episode. Some episodes I try to not curse so I can have that little clean label, or not have the explicit label. No, we're going to be cursing. We're talking about closure. The Healing Feeling Shit Show is a podcast I have been listening to, and it is exactly about that. It is about this somatic processing, allowing your feelings to move through your body instead of intellectualizing them, which can be another way to dissociate from them, right? So highly recommend the Healing Feeling Shit Show. If you, like me and my trauma buddies, are working on feeling your feels, then check that podcast out. Highly recommend. Brittany says, but that's my emotional support association. Angela says, I really like boxes, and then I am cat. Boxes are mine. Yes, like a cat. I was just talking to my friend. I'm making a commitment to read all the comments for this episode because I want everyone's content in. Including the silly ones, because this is what it's like. If you are a patron, you get to have goofy and healing conversations all at once with us in the Discord and elsewhere. I was just talking with a friend, ironically an ex. I have had an ex come into my life in Mercury retrograde, but in a healthy way, because it's so long ago that when we contact each other, it's like in a friendship way. And I've begun to feel comfortable just having conversations with them that are like about our day-to-day lives, about what music we're listening to, about our cats. You know, biggest lesbian energy is that you stay friends with your ex and then you babysit each other's cats. I don't know anything that is more about the queer experience than that. But we were just talking about how like our cats have like boxes or bags that are theirs, and we just have these random boxes and bags strewn about our home, and it's like, oh no, that's the cat's box. We don't move it. We leave that there. It will not get recycled. Okay. Let's come back to closure. Hydration checkpoint, everybody. Taking a sip of tea. Take a drink with me, or take a nice deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Okay. So how do we get closure? I am going to give you in this episode like a laundry list of magical and mundane approaches that I have thought about as I've been preparing for this episode. All of them I have worked with to some extent. Some of them not as much as I'd like. Some of them I'm like, oh, I'm going to go do that now that I've thought about it a little more. Some of them are more witchy. Some of them are more mundane. Importantly, none of them will work overnight. None of them will make your bad feelings disappear. None of them will protect you from feeling the uncomfortable emotions you have to go through, because that's not how real healing works. It took time for you to feel this shitty. So it's going to take time to get to feeling better. But you can feel better. The only way out is through. Because of that, I want you to know that you are doing hard emotional work and that you need and deserve help. You should not undertake things like this alone. So let at least one person know, someone who cares about you that you can trust, that you are working on healing yourself and you may need their support. And commit to show up to yourself as a friend to the best of your ability. If self-worth and self-esteem are a part of the picture for you, if this is like a hard topic for you, it might be hard for you to be kind to yourself, and lovingly, I'm going to ask you to do it anyway. I'm going to ask you, instead of trying to like gaslight yourself into be like, no, I love myself now, instead of like affirmationing yourself into a way you don't really feel, I'm just going to ask you to do it in a purely like one foot in front of the other kind of way. Ask yourself, how would I act towards someone I loved deeply if they were feeling this way? Or how would I act if an innocent child was placed into my care who was feeling this way? How would I treat that person or that child? Children, of course, are people too. And I want you to ask yourself what you would do and then do that for yourself to the best of your ability. Behave accordingly with yourself just as you would with someone that you love deeply and had no reservations about showing up for, like an innocent child. And trust that as you show up in kindness for yourself, over time that trust will grow, just like any relationship. You don't have to go all in overnight. You don't have to like go from hating yourself to loving yourself. You can instead just build your relationship one moment at a time, which is the only way real relationships are ever built. Self-trust will grow, and that can blossom into self-friendship. And self-friendship, guys, is a great, great goal, and it's very attainable. Brittany says, I pretend that I'm talking to a beloved friend or a small child that I care about. Oh, I love how we're on the same page. Yes. Samey. Ooh, what are we all sipping on? We're sipping on English breakfast tea with lactose-free milk and sugar, and we're sipping on Nutella iced coffee with CBD. Ooh, fancy pants. And I am sipping on Sencha, which is a lovely green tea that's like fancier and different from other green teas in a way that I can't explain to you. Oh, I love this. Angela said, I had to dig up a baby picture for work this week, and I had to look at this baby and feel love. And I put the picture with my grandmother, who was more like a mother to me. I love that. And I love the idea of like literally looking at a child picture of ourselves and allowing ourselves to love that innocent child. Yes. Okay, now we're ready to begin. This is the part of the podcast that's just like a big list. We're going to talk about magical and mundane ways to approach closure. Okay, first we've got a mundane way, and that is just go all in on writing out the emotions. Presumably you still have a life to manage, so I'm not suggesting that you just like put everything on pause and like go crazy. And I shouldn't say the word crazy, but you know what I mean? Like, put everything on pause and lose your shit, for a few days. You may or may not have the ability to do that, although I'm going to recommend that you do something like that in which you got this. Spoiler alert. I'm going to encourage you to throw a pity party in a time-limited fashion. But for this one, we're going to look at giving ourselves 30 to 60 minutes every day until we feel better to privately lose your shit. And that's a reasonable amount of time. If we were ill, if we were recovering from an illness, treatment might take that, right? Like if we were in physical therapy, doing exercises, maybe taking different medications, maybe having doctor's appointments, it wouldn't be unreasonable to set that amount of time aside for ourselves every day. So as we're recovering, as we're giving ourselves closure, we're going to give ourselves 30 to 60 minutes each day to privately lose our shit. We're going to write in our journal, or we're going to speak aloud what we're feeling without worrying about whether we look crazy, because we're alone and it's fine. We're allowed to look crazy. And when you find yourself stating an emotion, we are going to pause and we're going to find that emotion in our body. And we're going to ask ourselves, where is that emotion? What does it feel like? We might direct our breath at the emotion and see what that does. We might engage the emotion in conversations like, how long have you been there? Waiting for me to notice you? Is there a reason that you showed up this way? What is your origin story? And what do you want? What do you want and need? Now remember, your feelings are not the boss of you. As we talked about in the Witchy Weather Report, we don't have to do everything they say and take their truth as gospel, but they do have a lot of valuable information to share. And this is where we can start to separate our truth from the truth, or our feelings truth from the truth. We can acknowledge that something can be true and meaningful for us without being the objective truth, right? And we don't have to do everything our feeling is demanding of you. And especially you shouldn't do that if your feeling is demanding that you harm yourself or another. But if you can ask it what it needs to feel better, you might be able to try to offer yourself some really targeted, purposeful care that begins to meet your needs better than they have been met. We can also, if we choose, we can just breathe and listen to the feeling until it tires itself out, because it will. It's like that feeling of, has anyone else had this feeling of like, I don't want to start crying because I'm afraid I won't stop? Well, I've been there and I have started crying and I'm not crying right now, so I guess I did stop, right? Like, that's a fear. It's not reality. It might go for a while and we might have to keep coming back and crying for a while, maybe every single day for a week, but we will stop eventually. The feeling will not be our whole new life now. And if we give it time to just express itself, we might find that actually moves the process along quicker. Just as if anyone has ever had like a toxic relationship with someone where it's like, if you just listened to me once, I wouldn't have to keep telling you. You know what I mean? If we just listen to our feelings once, they don't have to keep telling us. So let's just show up for this time, 30 to 60 minutes a day. If you skip a day, fine. You're not being graded. It's fine. Just come back the next day. Like, it's okay. We have lives. We get it. But keep showing up for yourself with a consistency that's meaningful to you. Do this every day until you start to feel better, because you will start to feel better. There will be days where you're like, actually, I feel fine today. And slowly, those days will begin to be more and more. So maybe once a week or so, we can check in. How do I feel right now about the situation I needed the closure from? Where am I at on a closure scale of 1 to 100 today? We can expect that it will fluctuate, and we can not expect that it will ever get down to 0, because you're a human. Every memory you have will shape you, right? At some point, it will become a memory that you have learned from and you have healed from, and it won't have 0 power over you. It'll still affect you because you're a human being and you have feelings and you know how to be vulnerable, but it will no longer drive your decision making for you. You can move through your feelings until an experience no longer has that power to hijack your life. Ooh, some thoughts from the chat about feelings. I love this thought from Brooke Castillo, I'm not sure. A thought is a sentence I speak in my brain. A feeling is a sensation I feel in my body. Alternatively, feelings are vibrations in the body. I like that. Brittany says, for a long time I didn't know the difference. I had to learn. Same here, big mood. Just like I've had to learn what different emotions feel like and where they exist in the body. I am in the process of learning that right now. I'll just be real. It's taken me time. We also have another comment. I had to force myself to stop crying as a kid for survival purposes. Yes, I've been there. I know that feeling of like having to hold it in because that's what will keep you safe. So sitting with my sadness is really difficult for me. My body will automatically try to shut down the tears, and I'm learning to cry again. I know you are not alone in that, and I'm sending you a lot of love, and that's like sacred work that you're doing. And this last week, I've had to cry like 4 different days of the week. Yeah, you know, it's like the balance is coming due. But you'll get through it, and then you'll feel better, you know? Brittany says, I'm proud of you for giving me that time. I love this. I love this about our group. I love how we all support each other. It just makes me so happy. You guys. Okay. Hydration checkpoint. Magical way of closure. Do a releasing ritual. I recommend like the same ritual multiple days because that has helped me really get something into my subconscious. And that is the biggest thing. I've had a releasing ritual that I can't shut up about, that I've returned to multiple times over the years when I feel that I have important things that I need to release. Usually it's like limiting ideas or limiting beliefs that are causing me pain and having me make bad decisions, and I want to release those ideas. This ritual that I'm about to share to you is not the exact thing, but it does share some elements with it. And if you would like to check out the original ritual that I'm talking about, it's in Jason Miller's book, Financial Sorcery. Originally, it was introduced to me as a ritual to release set points. I absolutely love Jason Miller and super recommend him as a magical author, with a really good dose of like both practical and spiritual point of view. So if you read that book, Jason Miller's Financial Sorcery, you will find it as the set point releasing ritual that I highly recommend and that has changed my life. But here's my suggestion for how to have like me kind of adapting the ideas in that ritual and the concepts to give yourself a releasing ritual. So first, you're going to write down all the things you would like to let go of from this situation. Maybe you'll try to finesse that list a little bit so you really get the core. You know, if you find that you have 5 different things that are all like the same wound, you know, like all of them are like, what I want to let go of is not standing up for myself, and I see this manifesting in 5 different ways, then that's what we can put, right? Not standing up for myself when I need to, those kind of things. We're going to finesse our list and get it down to what, you know, really encapsulates what we want to let go of. We're going to light a black candle. Or if burning a candle is not workable for you, no problem. We're going to find like a black bowl or a cauldron. I have a cute little mini cauldron that I got at the Pagan Festival in New York City, and I love it. And we're going to visualize a blazing fire inside that bowl. And every day, we are going to do some breathing, get ourselves centered, and then we're going to read the list of things that we are trying to let go of to our real or imaginary fire. We're going to read them into the fire. As they exit our body, they will go into the fire and they will be burned. Don't just read through them like a homework assignment. We're going to feel them. Again, we're talking about feeling things in our body, not just verbalizing them in our brain. So we are going to feel them. We're going to read them, and we're going to allow ourselves to experience and embody the memories that they're sparking for you today. And as we speak them, we're going to let those memories, through our vocal cords and our voice, exit our body and into the fire so that we can truly, truly let go. We're going to ask the fire to take away this painful experience. I can tell you I've done this as a 9-day ritual multiple times, this kind of thing. And my experience is that different things hit me different on different days. Different memories come up around the different things that I've chosen to release on different days. And that's healthy. That's like you allowing your subconscious to really root through and find all of the things that are still affecting you. Ask the fire to take it away. I always like have a dialogue with fire, and I'm like, I don't care what you do with it, just get it away from me. I don't care if you destroy it. I don't care if you like recycle it and turn it into something for someone else. Like, do whatever you want. Just, I want it gone. Ask air to bring you a fresh perspective. Ask water to flow healing energy through you now that you have done this releasing work so that it cleanses you of any lingering painful attachments. And then you ask earth for strength as you move through this difficult time. Then we thank the elements for their service, and we close our ritual with any words that feel appropriate. It might be great to put in an affirmation here, and you know, for me, when I do affirmations, I'm not doing these aspirational affirmations that don't feel believable. Instead, I'm doing affirmations that acknowledge that we're a work in progress, and that's okay. So a great option might be, I am reclaiming my power as I move through this difficult time. It acknowledges that the situation is hard, and it also reminds you that it's temporary and we have the power to overcome it, that we can reclaim that power. So we might do a ritual like this for 3 days, or we might do it for 9 days, or we might pick a number that feels significant. If you were with someone for 6 months, maybe we do it for 6 days, you know? If you miss a day, just pick it up again the next day like nobody's grading you. It's okay. Okay. Mundane way to give ourselves closure. It's time to say everything that we need to say. That is often a need that is unmet. When we need closure, we haven't been heard. Sometimes we have been talking the whole time, but we haven't been truly heard. Or sometimes we haven't felt safe to speak what we needed to speak, right? Who are we saying this to? It depends on your situation. So again, in general, telling the person who caused you trauma what they did and what you need to say to them, it might get you enmeshed with them again. Because we're hoping for them to finally understand. And when they don't, we can get hooked again into trying to prove that we have a right to our feelings. And you know what? We don't owe it to them. We don't need to prove that to them. We have an inherent right to our feelings. So we don't want to get on that train. I do think, though, that sometimes it's worth giving people in your life honest feedback about how they made you feel. And you don't do that because they're going to turn around and get better. We have to let go of that expectation, unfortunately, because it's not realistic. Instead, the reason we do this is like as a public service, right? We do this because if we give them that feedback, they may reflect on it. They may become a better person down the line as they think about this, and the lives of other people that they touch will be impacted in a positive way. That's a gift that you may or may not choose to give, you know. You don't have to. But we may want to. We may want to share, like, here's what happened, here's what made me feel, here's what I needed to say. But remember, it's unrealistic to expect them to suddenly understand when they haven't in the past. There's a reason we need the closure. So if you do need to get it out, if you do decide to address someone directly, I'm going to recommend a letter or email rather than a text or call, and then closing the loop. We block them on our phone, we block them in our email, we block them on social media if we know that getting a response is just going to tempt us to respond again. Don't rely on your willpower. Just use technology, you know? Do this only once, do not do it 50 times. If you find that you're writing someone 50 letters or 50 texts, that's not closure, that's us getting enmeshed again. So that's when it's time to start writing in a journal instead of to the person. Another option is to write every letter you always wanted to send and just write it for yourself in a notebook. In an email, like that you send to yourself, you know, or you send to another email you have that you never check. You can decide whether to keep those letters or delete them or burn them or whatever else you want to do. You can even make a ritual of it. It might be useful to you to really read them later, or it might feel useful to be like, I've written them, that's it, I'm done, and dispose of them dramatically, burning them, burying them, whatever, you know, signaling to your subconscious, I'm done, I'm not going back, this is through. Judith has popped her head in to say, sending out love and blessings. Thank you. We receive them lovingly. Here is a magical way to release, to give ourselves closure and release. I'm just going through these as a list. If you can't tell, I'm just giving you a laundry list of ideas, and I invite you to like jot down anything that feels interesting to you and incorporate it into your closure journey. Do a binding spell. This is a little different than a traditional binding spell, which... If you're like me, if you are, you know, a 90s kid witch, you were introduced to in The Craft, in that scene where she binds Nancy from doing harm to others and harm against herself. Great movie, great scene. But I'm going to suggest you do a binding spell not on yourself or someone else, but actually on the situation itself. We allow it to be like, we allow it to acknowledge that it has taken on a life of its own, either the situation or the relationship or whatever it is. And the crux of this binding spell is we want to allow room for us to heal, but not for the situation to drag us back in and cause us new pain. So we're going to either take a photo or a memento that reminds us of this situation, or we're going to maybe write or draw something that represents it to us. And then we're going to take a large length of ribbon and we are going to completely wrap the object up. We're going to make this a ritual. So we may light a candle. We may do some breathing exercises before. We're going to center ourselves when we do this. We are going to mummify this thing so that we can acknowledge that this situation is a relic of the past. Some color ideas for the ribbon. We might want to use white to give ourselves a fresh start. We might want to use black to symbolize like, it's done, it's over. We might want to use pink for healing our hearts. Pink is a great color for heart healing. As you bind this thing that represents the situation, you are going to speak words like this. This situation or relationship no longer has the power to hurt me. I may reflect on it for growth and healing, but no new pain will come to me. It is over and done with and holds no power over me. Repeat those words again and again until the wrapping is complete. And after you have done that, you may wish to bury it or throw it in the trash, signifying to yourself that you're truly done and there's no going back. More comments from patrons. Spent 36 years trying to communicate. I was only on the receiving end. Yup. One-way relationship. Yes, I've been there, and I tried too long and had to slam the door. I'm really proud of you. Sometimes we do, and it's so painful because we've put in so much, and we hope that, we have like the sunk cost fallacy where we're like, I put so much in, can't I get a little something back? And sometimes the only way to get something back is to close the door and give it to ourselves instead. Willpower is great. This is a really important comment from Brittany. Willpower is great when your actions match up with your desire, but if what you want isn't realistically going to occur, then don't rely on it. Yes, I agree. If you're ready, there are times in my life when I have reached a point where I'm like, I am in every way ready for a fresh start. And that came out of like trauma for me at times. Like I remember the moment in my 20s when I decided it was time to start being a friend to myself. I had no idea how to do it, but I knew I had to. And I was emotionally ready to try. And it was okay for me to rely on my willpower then to some extent because I was able to say, okay, I'm ready. I want this. I want the result bad enough, But if you're like, well, what I really want is for the other person to just be nice to me. If you know that they're not going to do it, then it's not good to rely on your willpower, for that situation. I really agree. Instead, like, give yourself aids. There's nothing, you don't need to rely on your willpower for everything. Save it for the things that you'll need it, at times in your life. Why not make your life easier? Why not, like, block that person? Block their ass. Hydration checkpoint. Mundane way to give yourself closure. I love this one. Write yourself a different ending to the most painful parts of the experience. You might want to make this like a daily or weekly practice, like again, maybe 30 to 60 minutes a day. Because I bet if you need closure, that is more than just one memory, right? You might want to set aside an hour to reflect on one memory at a time that is causing you pain, that's come up recently, and then rewrite it in a way that would have been less painful for you to experience. I've been reading in The Body Keeps the Score, I'm going to write that down to put in the show notes, about this method. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's in the book, and I'm going to put the book in the show notes, about this method of like healing and trauma recovery that allows you to like rewrite painful childhood memories and actually have people around you act them out for you. Like, okay, your mother did this painful thing that hurt you, and now there's a new person, and we're going to cast her in the role of your ideal mother, and we're going to have her do the thing that you actually needed in that moment. And so you get to re-experience the memory in a way that would have been healing for you. That's the idea. We're restorying ourselves. We have a painful story that has lodged itself painfully in our hearts, and we're giving ourselves a better story. We've already experienced the shitty one, so we're offering ourselves a better story. Because often, if we have received trauma, if we've experienced trauma in our lives, we kind of don't know any better. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe we never had a healthy version of this type of relationship modeled for us. Maybe we don't know how to voice our feelings in a healthy way and get them met because we never had that opportunity. And if we re-story ourselves, we begin to give ourselves that modeling. We begin to show ourselves, see, this is how it can work. So we are going to take the memory that sucks and we're going to rewrite it in a way that would have been less painful. Maybe that means that it takes a turn and the trauma doesn't happen, or maybe it means something traumatic happens and you recover it. This is silly, but I've read like in sales and customer service that the way to make a happy customer isn't to never do anything wrong. It's actually to give an amazing recovery from having done something wrong. Like someone calls customer service, they're really upset, and you're like, you know what? You're completely right, and we got to make this up to you, and you go above and beyond to solve their problem for them and maybe give them a little extra, then that person will be a loyal customer, more so than if the problem never happened, because they're so appreciative that you heard and understood and showed up for what went wrong for them. So let's do this, like maybe that's the way to rewrite that story, is that the thing goes wrong, and then you're like, hey, guess what? This went wrong, and then whatever, the person, the people, the universe hear you out and fix it in this like healthy rewrite. We're going to restory ourselves. We're going to give ourselves a version of the event that feels a lot better. And maybe we're going to reread it lovingly to ourselves the next day and remind ourselves that this new version is something you can actually have in the future. We can have a gentle, loving experience like that. Bonus activity. You could seek out a book or a song or a movie or a show that also gives you like a more loving take on a similar situation. That's a really great way, by the way, when you're trying to heal from something and you have like stuck thoughts about it, you know, is to like give yourself happy ending media, you know, give yourself media around this topic that ends with you feeling lovey and warm and good, you know? Brittany says, this is also a part of EMDR. During the reprocessing part, I'm asked what I needed in that moment and directed to imagine that happening instead. Yes, love EMDR. By the way, if you are recovering from any kind of trauma, I highly recommend the book, The Body Keeps the Score, which does have a section talking about EMDR and also talks about that process that I can't remember the name of, of like kind of re-scripting, you know, the really painful traumatic memories in your life. It's an incredible book, and it's written by a trauma specialist from the first person, and it really is about his experiences working with his patients in these different therapies. So it's like really, it's really been meaningful to me to read that book and helped me have some ideas of how to take care of myself better and those I love. All right, here's a magical idea. If you just need to function, right? If you're like, I'm in a lot of pain and I can't deal with this level of pain and do my life, and I have to do my life, right? I have to pay my bills. We're mostly not so privileged that we can just put our whole life on pause for healing, right? I'm going to recommend a freezing spell. And here's the idea. Freezing spells are temporary. That's why we freeze it instead of like burning it, right? Because you can unfreeze the thing. The idea is you put a freeze on the situation's power to affect you, like pressing a pause button. So remember, this should be temporary, because what we're not going to do is compartmentalize our feelings forever. That sucks. But what we can do is freeze the situation until we're ready to deal with it. You know, like saying, okay, I'm going to deal with this every day for an hour, and that's when I'll take this out of the freezer, or I'm going to deal with this once a week for a couple hours, or I'm going to make a date in my date book that 3 months I'm going to take it out of the freezer and allow myself to feel these feelings when I'm calmer, right? That's up to you. We're going to unfreeze it only at the designated times when we're ready to feel these feelings. So here's how you do this. We're going to write or draw a representation of the situation we wish to freeze, just like in the binding spell, or choose a physical photo or a meme. Maybe get a meme from the internet and print it out to represent like the situation. Now remember, whatever you do, this is going to get ruined. It's going to be waterlogged. So don't do it if you're going to regret that. We're going to ruin this. Get the thing. Get a Tupperware type container. Like an old plastic takeout container is great for this. Fill it with water. And then we're going to place our representation face down in the water. We're going to push it down so that it is completely submerged. We're going to close the container and we're going to pop it in the freezer. It's frozen. It can't hurt us anymore. Well, it'll take a couple hours to freeze, but then it can't hurt us anymore. We will unfreeze it again, but we will specifically do that when we're ready to work on healing those wounds. When we're like, okay, now I'm ready to look at this. Now I'm ready to feel these feelings. It's a controlled situation where we've on purpose designated time to deal with it instead of allowing it to wreak havoc through our entire lives when we have parts of the day where we just need to function, right? And this is helpful because when you unfreeze it, you're going to notice it's not the same thing you put in there. It's crumply, it's runny, it's like pathetic now, right? Like now it's a mess. And this is helpful. We can notice like this situation is pathetic. It really can't hurt me anymore. You know, it really doesn't have any power to cause me any fresh pain. And then we can engage with it only for the purposes of healing. And we can refreeze it as many times as we would like. Mundane. This is the last thing on my general toolbox list. And then after that, we're going to go into which you got this. We're going to use our painful memories as a springboard to create a fresh start. Similar to how we restoried ourselves. Instead, we're going to give ourselves new if-then statements. Can you tell I used to be a coder? We're going to give ourselves new statements. If this, then this, right? We're going to give ourselves new directives of how we're going to engage with the world to give ourselves a better, fresh start. New intentions, if you will. So every time, and they're going to be very targeted to us creating closure and also creating a new good life for ourselves. Every time you find yourself enmeshed in painful memories, which if you need closure right now, probably often, right? Probably that stops you in your tracks several times a day. So we're going to take a pause when we find that happening, and we're going to use it in a very utilitarian way. We're going to say, oh, I'm having this painful memory. Now I am going to take notes. I'm going to notice what needs did not get met. That's what made this memory so painful, that my needs went unmet, you know? I didn't get respected, my boundaries didn't get met, whatever it was, I didn't get something that I really needed, that's a basic human need, whatever it is. We're going to identify what the needs are, we're going to write that down, and then we're going to identify how we will seek to make sure those needs are met in the future. So for example, I got yelled at for something that was really not my fault. It made me feel small and hurt. It made me feel like I had to walk on eggshells. Now, here's the new rule for the future. In the future, I will seek out people who treat me with respect and compassion, even when they're upset. In the future, I will seek out people who don't expect me to walk on eggshells, but can accept me as a whole human. Now, sometimes we also find that we let ourselves down. Like, for example, maybe by not standing up for ourselves. Maybe we can forgive ourselves, right? We don't have to, this is not about blame. Maybe we couldn't stand up for ourselves. Maybe it wasn't safe. Certainly it didn't feel safe if we didn't. But we can decide that we're going to show up for ourselves better in the future now that we are stronger. We can say the new rule is, in the future, I'm going to speak up and stand up for myself when I'm being unfairly criticized, even if I'm not sure what to say. And we're going to write down these new rules for us. I recommend starting like a fresh notes document, like on your phone or on your computer, or like a fresh notebook, and literally write down these rules, and we're going to write them down, and we're going to read them every day at the beginning of the day. First thing you do, you get out of bed. It's great to do this when your brain's still foggy, because then we're closer to our subconscious, and we're just going to read them to us. We don't even have to think about it. We're just going to read them. Maybe we say them aloud so we get like some extra somatic processing going on there at the beginning of every day, and then put the notebook away, and we add to it as we need to. And we allow this to permeate our brain so that now these painful memories are actually creating a springboard for the new, better life that we're about to have. Okay. We've gotten through the list. I think there's a lot more things you can do for closure, y'all. But I really wanted to create a toolbox with this episode of like, what can we do when we're in this thing? We're going to go back and we're going to have like a nice list of a bunch of things we can choose to try to give ourselves closure and do whatever feels most appealing. Hydration checkpoint. I'd like to report that I am about 50% done with my cup of tea. How are you doing? All right. I'm going to move on to which you got this. In this section of the podcast, I give you one practical idea you can implement in your practice right now. Of course, I've just given you a bunch of practical ideas. For which you've got this, I've just chosen one to isolate, and I want to call it a start to giving yourself closure, not a finish line. And what we're going to do is throw ourselves a magical pity party. We're going to throw ourselves a pity party. We're going to love our pity party. We're going to get really into it. That is the thing. And this is inspired by my dear friend Melissa, who is also a patron, who has told me in the past that when her life gets out of control, that what she does is like cry in bed about it for a day or two. And like, I have watched her, because I'm her friend, I have watched her do this. I haven't physically been there watching her cry in bed, because that would be a little creepy. But I have watched her take this method and grow like a weed. I have watched her like allow herself to feel all the things for a day or two, allow herself to get it out, and then turn around and change her life in these dramatic, empowering ways. She's such a badass. I have so much inspiration from her. And so this is the idea for which you got this. You're going to throw yourself a friggin' amazing pity party. You're going to conduct this pity party. You're going to label it. You're going to be like, it's pity party time, and you're going to carve out time. I recommend giving yourself like a full weekend, like take a couple days to do this, or at least a full day. And if you, like me, are a little bit of a workaholic, it might be hard for you to find a full day for yourself, and I'm going to ask you to do it anyway. And I'm going to frame it like this. If you have something that's causing you enough emotional distress, it's taking time out of your life and work anyway. You know what I mean? Like, if you're so distressed that you can't focus, then you're not doing great work at that time anyway. And instead of continually losing ground because you can't focus on what you're doing, take a day or two to really let yourself feel your feelings. Because one, it will help you feel better. And two, it's going to let you be more productive. You know, like, it's actually the productive choice. Your healing is also more important than work. It will have long-lasting effects on your ability to take care of yourself. So give yourself a weekend or give yourself a full day to have a pity party. We're labeling it, we're writing the words magical unicorn pity party or something similar in our day book, on our Google Calendar, whatever we do, and we're going to conduct our pity party in comfortable grandeur. We're going to conduct it from the most comfortable part of our home, in our most comfortable clothes, or your most fancy ones, if that feels more appealing, or maybe a mix of both. Maybe you are wearing your cozy footy pajamas, but you are also wearing the tiara that you wore to your wedding. Do it. I love it. That's perfect. That is the exact right attire for a pity party. Do the thing. We're going to get ourselves amazing takeout or cook ourselves amazing food. We're going to have something to toast with. Ideally, this is not always alcoholic. It's okay to drink a little during your pity party, but let's not get drunk because we're miserable and we don't want to have a miserable drunk experience. So like, I'm talking tea, I'm talking hot chocolate, like loving drinks. We're going to write in our journal. We're going to speak into our voice recorder app. We're going to conduct long monologues to our cat or to the air. We are going to get it all out during our pity party. And we're going to own it, and we're going to be as ridiculous as we can about it. Idea to make this magical is to identify one or more healing entities that you could choose to work with. So these could look like entities that are there to give you compassion, such as your higher self. An archetype like the Empress from the Tarot, love the Empress for healing, or a spirit or a guide that you work with. It could also be, you could also do like a pop culture entity. You know, you could be like, I don't know, like Lizzo is pretty good at trauma. I'm going to work with the spirit of Lizzo. I'm going to work with some Lizzo energy for this and like visualize the archetype of Lizzo helping you get back on your feet, right? We might also want to work with and invite to our pity party our wounded self, our subconscious mind, our inner child, the parts of ourselves that really need healing. We're going to let them all know, hey, guess what? I'm having a fabulous pity party to help us move through this painful time. You're invited. You're not required to attend, but you're invited. And as we conduct our pity party, we're going to write or speak to them. It can be aloud. It can be in your mind. It can be on paper, whatever works for you. You're going to let them know how you're feeling. You're going to talk shit about the person or people who made you feel this way. You're gonna be heinous. You're gonna really rip them a new one. You're gonna toast to your own innate fabulousness and betterness now that you are free of the situation. You are gonna ask your higher guides for advice or kindness depending on what you need, and you're gonna listen carefully. You're going to listen carefully and take notes because these notes will serve you again. So this is a serious part of the pity party. You're going to ask for advice or kindness as you reach difficult points, and you're going to write it down. And it doesn't matter. Remember, it does not matter if this experience is real. First of all, it's not dangerous to imagine things. Kids imagine things all the time. They have imaginary tea parties. They have imaginary friends. And you know what happens? Emotional growth. It's okay to imagine things. It doesn't matter if this is objectively real, because visualizing, receiving this loving kindness and advice from someone who has our best interests at heart, it's a way to restore ourselves. It's a way to give ourselves a powerful act of self-love, regardless of what we believe is really happening. So suspend your disbelief. It's a pity party. Be a unicorn. We are also going to invite our wounded parts to come to the table, and we're going to give them love and advice, just as you would give a beloved friend or an innocent child who came into your care. And we will also just listen. We are also going to say, we really care. I want to know how you feel, and I want to know what would make you feel better, and just listen. And again, this is a serious point of your pity party. We're going to write this down. Just as when you are out drinking at the bar and there is a drunk girl crying over her breakup in the bathroom, all the other drunk girls flock to her and comfort her. Have you witnessed this? It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. We are going to just listen and just be kind. So we're going to listen to our wounded self, and we might ask questions like, how did that make you feel? Or is there anything else you want to share about that? But that's kind of the only questions we might ask. We'll be a good listener, and we're going to write down what they say and what they need. Because sometimes what we need most when we need closure is just to get it out, just to speak it and be heard. So we're giving ourselves this gift. We will also schedule regular comforting activities throughout the pity party. Put them on the calendar, put them on the schedule. I am talking about bubble bath self-care. We will take a bubble bath or a really awesome hot shower if you're more of a shower person. We will get ourselves a professional massage if we can afford one. We will eat amazing comfort food, the most amazing comfort food. We will watch a movie or a show that always makes us laugh and feel safe. It is time to put on The Princess Bride again, friends. We will show ourselves as we move through this time that we are worthy of comfort and care and humor and joy. Throughout the pity party, let's write or talk about how we feel. Let's jot down our emotions, our needs, our fears. Let's just write it down. If you come across something particularly difficult, like a really hard feeling, we're going to invite it to the party. We're going to say, oh, thank you for attending, Incandescent Rage. I'm so glad you came because this is a pity party and this is exactly where you should be right now. This is about difficult feelings. So can I get you something to eat or drink? Let's talk. We're gonna put some tea in the hand of our incandescent rage or whatever other difficult feeling we're having. We're gonna let it know, I can't fix everything overnight right now, but I can listen and we can do some fun things to cheer you up. So we're gonna listen, and then we're gonna give ourselves healing. Maybe we put on some amazing music and we dance it out. Maybe we decide to take pen to paper and write a scathing Yelp review of the person who made us feel this bad. 0 out of 5 stars. Do not recommend relationship with this crappy patriarchal troglodyte. Never again. Stay away. Maybe, do whatever feels awesome or cathartic, or both. Expect to cry. So also give yourself opportunities to laugh, because both things help us heal. And remember that this pity party is the beginning of your healing, not the end of your healing. Keep checking in with yourself over the coming weeks, and maybe refer back to the things that you wrote about what you needed, about that loving advice, and give yourself opportunities to implement that over the coming weeks in your days. Some days you will feel really shitty and you feel like you still need attention, and other days you'll start to feel fine. And as those fine days start to add up, that's how you know you're healing. That's how you know you did it. You did the healing thing. And that reaches the end of our very wordy episode on closure. We're closing the book on closure. We're not. Come back to this episode wherever you want. My intention with this episode is, again, to give us a toolbox. One more hydration checkpoint. I expected this to be like maybe a 2-hour episode, but we're at 1:15 right now, so we're doing okay. Okay. I want to thank you for spending your time with me today. I'm going to take you out with a song in just a moment. If you like this podcast, I'm going to ask you to please rate it and review it wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you could take a moment to share it with someone who might be interested, I would be really grateful. If you would like to support this podcast financially and unlock exclusive benefits, you can do so at patreon.com/Sassafras Tarot, patreon.com/SassafrasTarot for $1 per month or more. Patrons get access to things like extra content, personalized tarot pulls, a witchy Discord community, and more. If you have a question, idea, or suggestion, you can email me anytime at sassafrastarot@gmail.com, and you can follow me on social media at Sassafras Tarot on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. If you would like to order a reading, you can do so at etsy.com/shop/Sassafras Tarot. All one word. I'll spell it again for you because I picked very hard words to spell for my brand because I'm silly. SassafrasTarot. Sassafras Tarot. All one word. As always, I am going to take you out with a song. And if you like it, you can search for me on the internets. My name is Rorie Kelly. I am not Tori Kelly. I'm Rorie Kelly. RorieKelly. You can visit my website, roriekelly.com, or find me on your favorite social media site, or find my recorded music on your favorite streaming site. So there. I'm going to sing you a song called Make It Count, which is not out yet, but is going to soon be released as a single. And it is really about learning how to be that friend to yourself, learning how to allow yourself to keep moving, even as you're healing. That is the vibe. That's the vibe we're putting out there. First, I'm tuning my guitar. It's tuning time. This is for Carol if she's listening. As you listen to this, why not go ahead and make it a little healing ritual? close your eyes, get yourself a delicious hot drink. You can press pause to do that. That's the beauty of podcasts. And just let this wash over you, knowing that I am putting a deeply healing intent and I'm sending you loving, compassionate energy for you to access by listening to this song. Sugar dust, darling, do you need an adventure? Baby, only you could turn the open road into a lecture. You are enough. You are enough. You are enough for this. Calling like a catbird, praying for the answer. Tensing up your neck like you're pushing through a disaster. Let the solstice open you up. Let the full moon say that enough is enough. Lay your shoulders down and just breathe a little while. Behold, you are free, and the sky holds you up. You are enough. Behold, you are free, and you don't have to shut down your love anymore. No one's coming to get you. No one's coming to take you down a peg. No one's coming to get you now. Make it count, make it count, make it count. The old you. You hate to take advice, so you only ask for advice from the moon. Breathing from the backseat like, will we get there? Will we get there soon? It's hard enough without this total lack of self-trust. You are enough for this. Behold, you are free, and the sky holds you up. You are enough. Behold, you are free, and you don't have to shut down your love anymore. No one's coming to get you. No one's coming to take you down a peg. No one's coming to get you now. Make it count, make it count, make it count. The old you. Turning over leaves like a cackle of crackles. If you're not overwhelmed, you start to worry that you're slacking off. Oh, it used to be the future is the past, and time moves slow. You're always running so fast, and there's a stitch in your side, and you're not gonna last. And I'm trying to breathe, and all you have is a gasp. Behold, you are free, and the sky holds you up. You are enough. Behold, you are free, and you don't have to shut down your love anymore. No one's coming to get you. No one's coming to take you down a peg. No one's coming to get you now. Make it count, make it count, make it count. The old you. Thank you so much for spending time with me, friends. That brings us to a close today. I hope that you received that with as much love as I sent it out to you. And we will talk again next time. Farewell, farewell.